Hey, good morning everybody. Today we're going to be talking about MC cable, and I'm going to show you some quick tips that will help you install it quickly and smoothly. So what is MC cable? MC cable is metal clad cable. Metal clad cable falls under the armored cable. Why do you have to run armored cable? Well, in commercial applications you usually have steel studs, and steel studs are not ideal for Romex, okay? Romex, for obvious reasons, would get cut up and you would probably have a lot of shorts. You need metal clad cable, that way the wire is protected from the steel studs. So when you're cutting MC cable, you got a couple different options. You can always use your linemen, which is the preferred method, especially with like 12 gauge. It is not that hard to cut, as you can see with your linemen, okay? You can also use your dikes, okay? They'll work just fine. Another method is the Sawzall. This probably ain't the most preferred method, but if you've ever tried to cut, especially like 10-3 with a pair of linemen, you know it is very difficult and it takes a lot of time. I have in a pinch, just grab the Sawzall and you can cut it. Alright, and just pop it right off right there. You can also use like large cable cutters, they work well. So when it's time to terminate your wires into a box, you have two different methods. You can use your dikes, which is what I learned in the field, and then you also have this tool made by Southwire. This is going to be the more formal tool, but carrying this tool around in a tool pouch would be a pain to lug around, especially if you're going in and out of ceiling grids, because you can see that this handle is going to get in the way. But to use this tool, you stick your MC cable inside of that groove, you clamp it down and you got to hold it tight, and then you just take this wheel and you start rotating around, and you'll feel some friction, kind of hear it cutting. You just keep going around until there's no more friction. I still got some friction going, and then the friction kind of stops. That's when I know I'm all the way through. Take it, and as you can see, it made this little cut right here. You can take your MC cable and then just peel it off. Okay, then you would remove your plastic. Okay, so that's one method that works well. You still got to get your dikes out, unfortunately, to take away that plastic. Another method is just using dikes. You can take your MC cable, you can break it off right there, and then you can spin it loose, and you can take your dikes, and you're going to have to trim back this sheathing, pull the sheathing off, but you notice you still have this little kind of barb sticking up. You can take it and just trim it down with your dikes and make sure you have a nice edge right there, and that way when you insert it into your connector, that edge does not catch. Okay. Of course, you'd want to take off the plastic too. Get it out of the way. Alright, so when it comes time to install your MC cable into a box, you have multiple different options for MC cable connectors. These are two that have actually been demoed. These are what you call pop-in connectors. Usually they have a little clamp right here that just pops into your box. So when you insert it in your box, it pops in. I'll have a picture of that, of what it actually is supposed to look like. You also have these little set screw ones. They got a lock ring. You install these just like you would like a pipe connector. You got your lock ring, you tighten it down. Now, one quick tip, make sure you have these red devils. That's what we always call them as a little trade term. I don't know the technical term. If you know the technical term, please leave them down in the comments below. But make sure you have that inserted into your MC cable, because it protects the wire from the actual armored cable part and keeps the wire from getting nicked. And so you just slide it in like so, and slide it all the way through until it touches, and then you can just tighten down your set screw. This right here, this is another pop-in. It was demoed off of a job, so it's missing its spring clamp right here. But this is what we call a double barrel. You can insert two cables into one connector hole. Very useful, especially if you have a big junction box, when maybe like a lighting area and you have multiple wires coming into that junction box. These come in handy. So like I said, multiple different kinds of connectors. These are just one of many. Quick tip is supporting MC cable. You have a couple different options, okay? First, code requires that MC cable, for it to be longer than 6 feet, must be ran through a structural or framing member. Okay, so a structural member would be like studs. Okay, you could run it through ceiling joists, metal ceiling joists. So anything that is a structural member that is not further than 6 feet apart, you can run MC cable across. Okay, if MC cable is ran through like a ceiling grid, then it cannot be more than 6 feet long. When you are strapping MC cable, you must strap it every 6 feet, and if it is within 12 inches of a termination. So if it's within 12 inches of a light or 12 inches of a box, then you must strap it there also. In those scenarios, you got a couple different options. You got your old handy dandy strap. These are just the same as the EMT straps, except they're 3/8 of an inch. That is your preferred method when you're running through like a stud wall, okay, and you're terminating to a box. If you're running through a ceiling grid, something like that, you're probably going to want to use a zip tie. This zip tie is definitely overkill. You can use a smaller zip tie, but zip tie is going to be the main method when you're running through a ceiling grid and you got a short run of MC cable. Alright, so I made this little wall to kind of demonstrate when you're pulling MC cable. You have that texture right here, and in your picture you can see I'm pointing at I'm pointing at the little indents. When you're pulling MC cable, make sure the indents go the opposite way you're pulling. So as you can see, the little indents are kind of going back, and it just makes it easier when you're pulling wire, and it can pull through the studs a lot easier. If you're going the opposite way, as you pull it, you can see it's a lot harder to pull because these little indents are catching that metal stud. Alright, you can still pull it like that way, but you can still pull it that way, but it's going to take a lot more force, and you also run the risk of actually pulling the metal sheathing apart.